During Syria's 13-year civil war, human rights groups estimate more than 100,000 Syrians from all walks of life, including thousands of women and children, were held in Bashar al-Assad's notorious Saydnaya prison north of Damascus. With those prison doors now thrown wide open, we'll hear in a moment from a former prisoner about the terrible conditions there. But first, our Tom Soufi Burridge reports.
Jubilant scenes like these erupting around Syria. Over the weekend, Bashar al-Assad's violent dictatorship fell to rebel fighters at lightning speed. But in the midst of the celebration, light is now being shed on the worst of the Assad regime. Prisons in Syria are renowned to be some of the harshest in the world. This is Saydnaya, referred to as a human slaughterhouse by rights groups. This video shared by a non-governmental organisation that monitors prisons. Where torture was systematic, Saydnaya became a symbol of Assad's brutal rule. Today, these prisons have revealed heartbreaking discoveries. Don't be afraid, the man says to this woman, found in an underground prison. He finds a child alongside her. This man, allegedly fleeing from Saydnaya, holds up 10 fingers. One for every year he was in prison. In this video, rebels shooting at bolted prison cells. Doors flung open, former detainees seen hugging and cheering in the corridor. Thousands are believed to have been detained, tortured and executed in Saydnaya for decades. Just north of Damascus, the prison has two main facilities. This, the main prison, the so-called Red Building, where opponents of Assad's dictatorship were held. And just tonight, Syrian TV reports of a mass grave found on prison grounds. But today, the doors open and prisoners freed. Rebels trying to control the chaos of crowds gathering at the prison, hoping to find a loved one, least a trace of one.
Tom Soufi Burridge for us. Here now is someone who knows firsthand about Saydnaya prison and its inhumane conditions. Omar al-Shogri is with us now. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you were just 15 years old when you were first captured by Bashar al-Assad's forces. How did you end up in the prison there?
I ended up in prison without a reason in Syria. That's the interesting question in Syria. You don't need to do anything to end up being political prisoner. They just take you from the street. They take you from your home. At the checkpoint, if the soldier doesn't like your hair, he could just beat you up and then put you in prison because they know they have immunity. They can't be prosecuted for their crimes. So I was taken from my home with my cousin, and we were taken to prison, and then we were forced to give false confessions under torture. And those false confessions ended up leading to an execution sentence from which I was smuggled.
Tell us about the conditions that you endured.
As you can see in the released videos and photos from Saydnaya prison, it's a slaughterhouse. It's a dark place where you rarely dream of getting free out of that place, or I would say never dream of getting out of that place. You have multiple floors and multiple guards with different expertise on in which way they want to torture you and what is the best way for them to enjoy torturing you.
Give us a sense of that moment of freedom, what you felt, what happened.
My moment of freedom, or the moment of freedom for hundreds of thousands of Syrian prisoners the other day?
For hundreds of thousands and for you personally.
I'll start with 100,000. I was here in this apartment watching the news one after one, and I was crying during the night because I've been seeing videos of people in other cities being liberated from prison. So excited for every Syrian to feel the feeling of freedom that I once felt. It was incredible. I was so worried that the regime will execute a lot of prisoners when the opposition take over new areas. But luckily, I think not a lot of that has happened. And I see the people running. Imagine prisoners after 14 years. Some of them, after 43 years of imprisonment, were running free for the first time. The world didn't know they even exist anymore. So that was an extraordinary moment. It's the day I will always remember, and that's what I worked for in the last 9-10 years. So it brings me endless joy. And in regards to the day I experienced freedom, it didn't felt as as good since I was informed that I was taken to execution. And I was put in a room for 48 hours of preparation. And every hour they will open the small window, the door, and ask me, how do you want us to kill you? And they put you through a traumatic experience. And then 48 hours later, they took me and they put me on the ground and they loaded, aimed, and shot. And when they shot, I thought I died because I never died before. I don't know how it feels to die. After 3 years, and a car stopped behind me, picked me up, took me somewhere else. Things were moving on too quickly. Then I was in between my mother's hands. And my mom told me that it was a mock execution. And she bribed everyone from the top to the bottom. Even the execution guards were bribed to not shoot me so I could be spared.
Do you think anything will change under a new government with the prison system and beyond?
I think everything would change. Syrians been out on the street fighting with their lives. They struggled. They were tortured, starved, died. Chemical weapons rained on them for them to achieve this day of freedom. Syrians will not let anyone who doesn't fit be in power. Regardless of who liberated Syria in the last week, it doesn't matter. What matters is that we are willing to continue our fight, to have a democratic process, to end up with election. Democracies around the world have let us down day after day after day. They let us die in silence. They did nothing. Not from the great America, not to Sweden. Nowhere in the world have done anything to help the Syrian people achieving freedom and democracy. Syrians have done it themselves, and they will fight to have it and to keep it.
Omar, we can hear your passion and excitement, and we thank you so much. We're fortunate to be able to have this conversation with you tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.